Hello and welcome to this Docker Swarm on GCE introduction. Let me introduce myself very briefly first. My name is Hakim and I'm a DevOps engineer in a French company called Scale5. So these here are the basic concepts behind Docker Swarm, okay? First of all, a task is just an atomic scheduling unit. It carries a Docker container and all the commands needed to run inside of it, okay? A service is the definition of the task to execute on the worker nodes, okay? And a node is simply put an instance of the Docker engine participating in the swarm, okay? It can be a manager node, a worker node, or a leader. And finally, a cluster or a swarm is just a bunch of nodes working together. So this is a quick overview of the architecture behind Docker Swarm. You can have multiple manager nodes and one of them is going to be elected as the leader, and multiple worker nodes which will execute the necessary tasks ordered by the leader. So Docker Swarm allows for load balancing behind the scenes using what's called a routing mesh, which basically means that any node can handle a request to any service, even though the services are not on every node. So if you look closely at the diagram right here, you can see that if I call node 3 on its IP address, I am still redirected to one of the nodes that has a service I need running, okay? So let's have a look at the steps we're going to go through. First of all, we're going to start by initializing a Docker Swarm on a manager node, okay? Then we will SSH into 2 worker machines and we will join the cluster. And then we will deploy a version 1 of a service. We'll scale it to 3 replicas and then we'll execute a rolling update of the service to version 2. Okay, so for this demo, I have created 3 Google Compute Engine instances. One of them is going to be used as a manager node and the other 2 as worker nodes on my swarm cluster, okay? Each and every one of these instances has Docker installed on it. I have also exposed a few ports here, and these are necessary in order for the Docker Swarm nodes to be able to communicate together. And finally, I have created a very simple Docker image containing a PHP application and tagged it twice, so version 1 and version 2. And we're going to be using this a little bit later for the demo, okay? Okay, so time to play with the command line. As you can see here, I have SSH into my 3 nodes, so manager 1, worker 1, and worker 2. Alright? And if I type here docker info, as you can see, the swarm mode is inactive right now. So let's go ahead and activate it. And there you go. It just gave me a new command line that I can use on the nodes to join this swarm. Okay, so I'm gonna copy it and paste it on the other nodes. And as you can see here, this node joined the swarm as a worker. Very good. Now if I type here docker nodes ls, you can see my manager node and my worker node. I can do the same with worker 2. There you go. It joined the swarm. And if I type this command again, I have my 3 nodes ready to go in my swarm. Okay, so now that we have our cluster up and running, we can start adding services to it. Okay, so let's create our first service. I name it votes, expose port 80, and specify the number of replicas. Let's say 1 for this case, and the name of the image that we're going to use. So, if you remember, is this one here. And version 1. There you go. Now, if I want to see a list of my services, I simply type service ls. And you can see here 1 replica and the image version, okay? I can also see the tasks that a service is running with the command ps this time and the name of the service. Alright, so my manager node has created a new task for the service vote and it's running on swarm 1 manager, okay? So if I head over to that node, I can see that my application is running. Very good. And as you can see here, I have the ID of the container too, okay? So let's go over to the command line and type docker ps to see all the containers. It's the same exact idea that I have here. Very good stuff. All right. So now the task has been started on manager 1. Okay. However, Docker Swarm handles load balancing for me behind the scene. So if I go to one of the worker nodes, it's still working. Okay, because the load is sent to whichever task is running on whichever node, in this case manager 1. Okay, so even though I have no tasks running on worker 1, the application is still running, which is awesome. So let's go ahead now and scale our application. Right now I have only one instance of my application running and I want 3. So service scale, and the name of my service is vote, and I'm going to say 3 times. Okay, very good stuff. There you go. So 3 instances running on my cluster. So if I type docker service ps vote, I can see that each GCE instance has its own copy of the application. All right. So if I head over to my browser again and refresh the page, you can see here that the container ID is changing every time. All right. Very good. Okay, so now that we have our application up and running on the cluster, we might need to update it to version 2. Okay, so this is a very simple matter with the docker service update command. And here we specify the new image, v2, and we can use a very interesting option here, which is update delay. And we set it to 10 seconds, okay? And this option right here is telling Docker Swarm to update a container and then wait 10 seconds and then update another container and etc. etc. Okay, and of course the name of the service. So if I type docker service ps vote, as you can see here, Swarm is updating the tasks one at a time, then waiting 10 seconds, then another one, and etc. Let's try that again. So now I have 2 tasks updated and another few seconds, and there you go. Version 2, version 2, version 2, and the other ones are the shutting down containers that we do not need anymore since they are on version 1. Okay, so if I head over to my browser and refresh, as you can see, I have version 2 here, and I'm still redirected to one of the containers on the cluster, even though I'm still on manager 1. Okay, and if I head over to worker 1 and then worker 2, and there you go. Okay, so I hope this tutorial was helpful for you to understand and have a first view of Docker Swarm, and thank you very much.